The rapture is one of the most controversial topics in all of theology. Some Christians believe in it, all atheists mock it, and the New World Order may very well attempt to fake it. What would discourage Christians more than seeing New Agers, Buddhists, cult leaders, and corrupt con artist Christians raptured, while the Bible-believing faithful are, in essence, left behind? Why wouldn't the New World Order attempt to unite all the world's religions behind one deity by including them all in such an apocalyptic event? Surprisingly, the US government actually admits to thinking about the use of this technology, though it denies it's followed through with such implementation. In an article entitled Bees on the Battlefield and Other US Military Experiments, published by the British news agency The Guardian on June 18, 2007, it discusses strange government projects, and I quote, "Then there's the prophet hologram, the projection of the image of an ancient god over an enemy capital, whose public communications have been seized and used against it in a massive psychological operation. An Israeli cybernetics expert named Yitzhak Hayutman has even gone as far as to lobby the Arab world to allow him to project a holographic temple above the Dome of the Rock in an effort to summon whichever savior should take notice of it and actually show up. But does it even matter? Does this technology even exist? Or is it just crazy conspiracy theory?" Let's take a look at the Army Research Lab, Adelphi, Maryland's progress report from November 96 through August 97. A session number ADA 3338490. The topic? A 3D holographic display using strontium barium niobate. Its abstract states, an innovative technique for generating a three-dimensional holographic display using strontium barium niobate is discussed. The resultant image is a hologram that can be viewed in real time over a wide perspective or field of view. The holographic image is free from system-induced aberrations and has a uniform high quality over the entire field of view. Interesting. Well, we've seen the chemtrails, and there's a lot of speculation about what they're being used for. Weather control and mind control are at the top of the list. But as you'll see in a second, chemtrails have been directly linked to barium, which is one of the main components of the Army's 3D holography display.
Could a strange substance found by a southwest Arkansas man be part of a government test? Well, that's the question at the heart of a phenomenon called chemtrails, now getting widespread attention. Well, tonight, KSLA News 12 investigation reporter Jeff Farrell shows us the results of testing we had done about what's in our skies.
It seemed like some mornings it was just crisscrossing the whole sky. It was just like a giant checkerboard.
Bill Nichols snapped several photos of the strange clouds from his home in Stamps, Arkansas. They begin as normal contrails from a jet engine, but do not fade away like a normal contrail. Soon after, he saw particles in the air.
Because we'd see it drop to the ground in a haze.
Nichols then noticed the material collecting on the ground.
This is water and stuff that I collected in bowls. I had it set out in my backyard on my dad's pickup truck.
KSLA News 12 had the sample tested at a lab. The results? A high level of barium, 6.8 parts per million, more than 3 times the toxic level set by the EPA.
According to Section 5.6 of a military research paper entitled An Operational Analysis for Air Force 2025, an application of value-focused thinking to future air and space capabilities, military brainstorming as of May 1996 was researching, constructing, yet again, another holographic projection system. This time they were looking to implement an airborne holographic projector that would display a three-dimensional visual image in a desired location removed from the display generator. The projector can be used for psychological operations and strategic perception management. It is also useful for optical deception. The picture you see here speaks for itself. This isn't depicted as a ground-based weapon, but rather one that would project a deceptive image hologram in the air. Could the chemtrails play a role in this? I'm no scientist, so I can't tell you absolutely yes or even maybe. But the chemical connection, barium, along with the military's own documents, lead me to think in that direction. But if they've got some kind of crazy projection system, that in and of itself isn't going to convince anyone of anything. Unless, of course, God is a mute and he's going to come in complete silence. Let's face it, even the most action-packed movies are boring without some kind of a stunning soundtrack. Well, just in time for it to be exploited in the very same way, the technology now exists to beam sound right into your head. Strategy.com reports in an article entitled Death Ray Replaced by the Voice of God that the U.S. Navy is using non-lethal systems called LRAD, or Long Range Acoustic Device. This is being used right now in the Persian Gulf. Many small fishing and cargo boats ply these waters, and it's often hard to get the attention of the crews. With LRAD, you just aim it at a member of the crew and have an interpreter speak to the sailor. It was noted that the guy on the receiving end was sometimes terrified, even as he realized it was a large American destroyer that was talking to him. This apparently gave the Army guys some ideas, for there are now rumors in Iraq of a devilish American weapon that makes people believe they are hearing voices in their heads. And then there's the A&E television series called Paranormal State, which used a clever combination of a large billboard and cutting-edge technology to beam frightening ads directly into people who were walking near the show's billboard in the heart of New York City. The advertising website MediaBuyerPlanner.com writes in an article entitled Billboard Whispers into Pedestrians' Ears for A&E's Paranormal State that an ad for A&E's ghost-themed series Paranormal State uses technology to transmit an audio spotlight from the rooftop speakers in New York's Soho directly into the ears of passers-by. Here's a sample showcasing how this concentrated sonic beam works. There are literally dozens of patents dealing with ways of beaming sonic transmissions directly into people's minds. This was once called telepathy. Today it's just modern-day technology and advertising. Yes, I understand this sounds absolutely bizarre. Where's the proof? Where is it? We've recently seen Al Gore and Prince Charles appear in holographic form. But do we actually know of any such encounter we can attribute holographic technology as to having been used as part of a supernatural psyop? I believe we do. It's just a matter of looking at information. ABC News by ex-CIA spy John Kiradiw. The topic was waterboarding. Kiradiw came out in an un-CIA-like fashion and proclaimed that waterboarding is torture. On the ABC News website, in an article entitled, Coming in from the Cold, CIA spy calls waterboarding necessary but torture, the ex-spy described the effectiveness of waterboarding on captured al-Qaeda member Abu Zubaydah, and I quote, John Kiradiw, now retired, said the technique broke Zubaydah in less than 35 seconds. The next day, he told his interrogator that Allah had visited him in his cell during the night and told him to cooperate. Now, hold it for just 1 second. We believe this man is telling us the truth because he's playing nice and claiming that waterboarding is a bad thing. But look at what he just said. He's implying that when someone is tortured, they just have to say uncle and then we stop. You would think that if Zubaydah was cracked in 35 seconds, that would mean he was spilling the beans only seconds after that. As in, okay, fine, I'll talk, please, no more, no more. Not, oh my goodness, I'm glad you stopped. I didn't like that very much. I guess I'll go get some sleep, and I'll think about maybe telling you something tomorrow. And if we are to believe that it was indeed the waterboarding that broke him, then why would he bother telling his interpreter that Allah had visited him in his cell during the night and told him to cooperate? His interrogator knew he was waterboarded. He wasn't going to save any face with his interrogator. Remember, they broke him the day before, and they didn't get any information out of a quote-unquote broken man until the next day after he claimed Allah came to him in his cell and told him to cooperate. I'm not making this up. Watch for yourself. Pay attention to the body language. You decide for yourself if this makes any logical sense.
And that was one of the techniques?
Waterboarding was one of the techniques, yes.
And was it used on Zubaydah?
It was.
And was it successful?
It was.
What happened as a result of that?
He resisted. He was able to withstand the waterboarding for quite some time, and by that I mean probably 30, 35 seconds.
That's quite some time.
Which was quite some time. And a short time afterwards, in the next day or so, he told his interrogator that Allah had visited him in his cell during the night and told him to cooperate because his cooperation would make it easier on the other brothers who had been captured. And from that day on, he answered every question just like I'm sitting here speaking to you.
In a willing way?
In a willing way.
So in your view...
And after watching that, I can only come to one conclusion. This man was not waterboarded. If he was waterboarded, he was not broken during the waterboarding. He was broken through a psyop. If he was broken from the torture, he would have spilled the information right then and there. I think what you're seeing here is an experimental use of cutting-edge holographic technology to see if people will buy it, to see if it's believable. And just in case I'm right, I have to do what I am about to do. In the Bible, Jesus was very clear about what his return would be like. In Matthew 24, his disciples asked him point blank, what is the end of the world going to be like? And starting in verse 4, Jesus answered them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. So he warns us, don't be fooled. And then again in verses 23 through 26 we read, then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. And then in verse 36 we read, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. No man knows the hour. If anyone out there believes in a pre-trib rapture, I'm not going to argue the point. Just be sure you're spiritually prepared just in case. Pride enables us to believe we aren't appointed to physical wrath, while Christians all over the globe are being hunted and killed like animals. Spiritual wrath, however, is something very different from physical wrath, and we're promised salvation, and as such, we are exempt of spiritual wrath. But beyond that, we were warned repeatedly that others would come using Jesus' name. We were specifically warned to look out for false prophets and great signs and wonders. I, for one, can't imagine a greater sign and wonder than a false rapture meant to crush and demoralize the Christian community while indoctrinating the rest of the world into the Antichrist religious system. Satan's had an awfully long time to plan out this end times deception. I personally feel it would be a grave and dangerous mistake for any Christian to underestimate the cunning nature and deceptive power of the serpent.